Zelda, I was so impressed by the sense of style Lisa Frankenstein has and the confidence that comes across. How was it really coming into your own vision? Because I don't always see that confidence in a full-length directorial debut like this.
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky by what was already on the page. It was a big swing, even just written. So I got to just kind of come in and take no prisoners and cut off a bunch of limbs.
And Diablo, there's so many little jokes in the script that had me really laughing. And the GW Paps line early on was hilarious. You do that really well in your film. So I was curious, how do you generally find the balance between, telling that core story and adding in these little lines? Does that come from revisions? Do you have to cut jokes? How do you find that?
That definitely comes from revisions. I mean, that's always the hardest tone to find, is when you're trying to strike a balance between comedy and drama and suspense all in the same movie. It's tricky, but I can never restrain myself when it comes to little jokes and little moments. And at this stage of my career, I think people have come to expect that from the things that I write. So I feel more confident.
And Zelda, the story about halfway through the film just starts getting just wonderfully dark and twisted. Can you speak to pacing? Because I feel like if the movie maybe rushed to that point, we wouldn't find the characters as likable as we do. So can you talk about the pacing of the film?
Well, excuse me. Well,
Peter Brady.
Well, for me, and I'm so lucky that I got to work with Brad, who is the editor on this, we really tried to explore a lot of different versions of it. And of course, you also, with a comedy, tend to want to have it be a bit quick in the beginning. We approached a bit of that. But by the time you get into even like the second quarter of the film, I was really happy with where we settled on pacing. I really enjoyed that it felt very much like the 80s movies that I loved and was kind of inspired by. And I wanted people to settle into these two and the way they talked to each other as well. If you moved through too quickly through the development of their relationships, whether it was hating Janet or loving Creature or loving Taffy, you wouldn't have cared if any of them lived or died. So I'm very glad that in the script and what we got to explore allowed for that development. You can't do the gore without caring, or you can, but then you don't care.
And Diablo, what was about the 80s that just made it ripe for this story that's so gothic in nature? It's such a fun combination of styles.
I mean, I grew up in the 80s, so that's a total nostalgic, emotional point of connection for me. And also just the music of the 80s is amazing, the aesthetic, like just the fact that people were forced to be more present in their interactions than they are now, that makes for a better movie than, people making plans on their phone. So I like the complications that arise when people can't get in touch with each other immediately. I mean, just from a narrative perspective, it's so much more fun to set things in the before times.